Welcome to the party. This is your boy Malin. We're going over the game balance. All right, so the first things we're gonna do is I'm gonna skip to the ones or really I shouldn't skip. I should just read the whole thing for y'all. So two-handed weapons and slow attacks. All right, so two-handed weapons focus on having great risk for great reward, but over time, their power has dropped relative to one-handed weapons. We intend to bring the power back while still keeping the risk. The slower, on average, than one-handed weapons, without the free mechanics that come with shields or dual wielding. But now that you have defensive advantages available to them, slow, heavy hits now deal enough damage to stun even the toughest bosses without as much investment in stun mechanics. New sources of area of effect and powerful inherent damage from skills and supports free up passive points for life and defenses if you choose to, including new options for a defensive war cry effect and a new armor keystone. Okay, so it looks like we're getting a new keystone for armor. A high level all high-level two-handed weapons have been rebalanced, pushing greater disparity between weapon types. The goal is that every high-level two-handed weapon has a role and an ideal base type for someone. For most two-handed weapon types, each weapon has its own implicit mod, focusing on specific a specific mechanic associated with its weapon type. So I think that, sword slash, axes chop, I don't know. Mace's stun, maybe? I don't know. We'll figure that out. There have been new additions to the passive tree providing power and utility, especially for melee characters with Tribal Fury, notable that was once only available from Blight Anointments. Leech passives give much more total recovery per second for life leech than before. So reaching maximum leech is more easier for slower attacks and two-handed attacks with some accessibility investment. I hope they mean that little wheel for the two-handed weapon that gives leech, they increased it to give you more. Maybe, I don't know. Many skills intended to work with two-handed weapons have been reviewed. Sunder, Static Strike, Tectonic Slam were changed significantly, while many others had numerical changes. Some slow attacks with added damage have had it removed, and their damage multiplier improved as a flat added damage inherent favor builds. Hold up a second. I just realized something. I do not have my stream in focus so that I can actually see if anybody says anything to me. That's a terrible thing I do on a regular basis. Bad me. I do that on a regular basis, people. Regular basis. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and work this out. Where was I? Yeah. Slow attacks, boom, boom, ground. Okay, there we go. Multiple improved, a flat damage added, inherently favors builds with high attack speed. Ground Slam, Earthquake, Ice Crash, Vol Ground Slam, and Vol Earthquake have had their added physical damage or added cold damage removed in exchange for improving their damage multiplier. Oh, wow. So, for a minute there, I was debating on running in and doing a update to my Ice Crash to actually execute do Ice Crash and do good damage with Ice Crash. That might change everything for me on that one. Many of the new war cries and the new Fist of War support for slam skills greatly benefits slower attacks, synergizing very well with two-handed weapons. There are now many powerful options to invest in slow attacks rather than a handful of mechanics that existed previously. Herald of Purity has been changed from adding physical damage to granting more physical damage, given 12% more physical damage at gem level 20. This was to provide an equal benefit to weapon attacks regardless of their speed. Okay, so that's kind of a nerf. I don't know if people are going to be upset with it, but that's kind of a nerf. Shockwave support now has multiple cooldown charges as the new Fist of War doesn't work with triggered shockwaves. Shockwave support is best suited for slow, non-slam attacks. Okay, so a slow, non-slam attack. That's a two-handed weapon using something like Vigilant Strike, Heavy Strike, something like that. Okay, so let's look and see what they did with Dual Wield. So Dual Wield, the physical multiplier when dual wielding has been removed. This was originally added as a fix from half a decade ago to improve the damage of dual wielding relative to the higher damage to its two-handed weapons and the overwhelming defensive power of shields at the time. This allows two-handed weapons to retain the king of damage while dual wielding is the king of speed with some defensive benefits. Okay, so big heavy damage, two-handed weapons, stick you multiple times, dual wield, and yeah, shields still are the best thing ever. Shields still are the best thing ever. Don't take my word for it. Just try it. All right, so brands. That's too much words for brands. Too much words for brands. That sucks for what I've been saying I was gonna do. So everybody knows I want to do the Arcanist brand, Freezing Pulse, Frostbite configuration. Everybody knows this. This change might destroy everything because this is like 5 paragraphs, 6 paragraphs, something like that. That's a lot. That is a lot for somebody who wants to use brands. Okay. So, brands. The design of brands make them very powerful in clearing out areas with very passive playstyle, as well as dealing damage to bosses with very little time spent standing still. This often meant brand characters weren't engaging with many challenging mechanics instead of running around waiting for enemies to die. That's true. I ain't going to deny. That's true as heck. Cast your brands, and you just, oh my god, hope the boss don't kill me. Hope the boss don't kill me. And then everybody dies on screen. That's perfectly fine. I understand what they're talking about. We've known for some time that parts of these mechanics needed to change to tone down the advantages before we could introduce new brand skills, and have endeavored to make these changes without heavily impacting the core identity of brands. So, I'm an Armageddon Brand guy. If they nerfed Armageddon Brand, we through. POE and I are through. I'm done. I liked Armageddon Brand. With playing Armageddon Brand, it's different than playing Storm Brand. Armageddon Brand, you have to cast a lot. You have to draw your things in, let it do the little explosion, and attach out and kind of do your thing and cast a few times because it's it was a slower explosion type thing coming from Armageddon Brand. I love Armageddon Brand, don't get me wrong. My key to playing Armageddon Brand was Armageddon Brand and using a multi-totem configuration for Scorch Ray. So you get that Scorch Ray going, and it's taking resistance, lowering the resistance of the guys. You got resistances dropping like crazy. You got the Armageddon Brand going off, and you've cursed them with flammability. So you actually damage some really really high level bosses and really good stuff pretty quickly, and it takes them down. Never mind. I am babbling about brands when we need to read about brands. That is so my fault. All right. So, Brands now drop at the original or recalled location when the enemy that they are attached to is slain. This prevents them from chaining repeatedly out of the player's control, killing monsters that haven't had a chance to meet the player yet. In other words, killing stuff off screen. Brand recall no longer refreshes the durations of brands, which we knew this was coming. We very much appreciate the utility of brand recall, but it has played a significant part in making brand skills feel very passive. We want to move in the direction of players having to recast their brands more often, with the option to invest in brand duration to reduce how often one must recast brands. Okay, I can accept that. That's not a big thing to me, in my opinion. Brand recall has a longer cooldown and a lower value of cooldown recovery per level. We've added brand recall cooldown recovery to a number of places on the passive tree to give new avenues for investing in rather than receiving the full bonus just for leveling the gem. Okay, so what that means is brand recall, you get it at level 11, you get it up to a level 11 or level 12. You have to do a bunch of things, and you still get to drag your brands. So it's going to be, you're still going to be able to drag your brands around. Now the question is, how does that actually equate for attachment and duration of your brands? You're going to probably have to do more duration. Point blank, more duration on your brand so that it can attach and stay long or stay alive longer. So yeah, see that. We've lowered the detached duration of brands to bring them in line with mines, which also had their detached duration lowered when last reviewed. This is simply because the duration was unreasonably long. All right, let me see what this is. I'm sorry, there's people from work. All right, so we good. Wasn't for me. It was just on a broadcast for everybody. That's simply because the duration was unreasonably long, especially with new and plentiful brand duration passives. So what that just told me was brand recall or brand duration. They've done some stuff to make the brand durations longer in the passive tree. So might not even be a big deal. I would actually say be very careful though on generating your characters the same way before. You want that extra brand. You want that extra time, because brand recall does not refresh anymore. So you want to make sure you take extended brand time. Just off the bat, just telling you that right off the top. All right, because of these changes, we've been able to slightly improve the power of Storm Brand, greatly improve Armageddon Brand, and improve the utility and power granted by brand passives, and a new brand cluster, and of course introduce new brands including the Arcanist brand that now lets you trigger many different spells using brands. The Hierophant brand node has also changed, mentioned below. Holy crap. They screwed with Hierophant. Oh, this might not be good. Okay. War Cries. War Cries have changed significantly. Using War Cry is now far more powerful than before, but comes with a longer use time and a longer cooldown. Cooldowns are no longer shared between War Cries. More notes can be found in the War Cry reveal post. The goal of these changes is to have War Cries be something that has a far more significant impact on combat, with great reward for taking risks and standing still and having an inability standing still and using the ability while surrounded. Using multiple different War Cries is now possible, and a reason to heavy invest in a mechanic that you're able to take advantage of multiple times on a single character. For those that prefer old playstyle, we've added the keystone that lets you use your war cry instantly at the cost of not being able of being unable to take advantage of multiple cries. This isn't a keystone that is designed for characters that have heavily invested in war cries, but rather for characters that have a specific single war cry they wish to take advantage of. Many new Warcry passive clusters have been added, providing more avenues of investment, cooldown, recovery, faster use time, giving powerful damage bonuses when using exerted attacks, and rewarding the use of multiple Warcries. Many existing unique items with Warcry related mods have been changed significantly, with some given entirely new effects. Most notable, the Warband shields. Okay, I like that change. Warband shields is going to be something that I want to look at. I do have a question and do have some problems with this. I want to use one Warcry, but I want to invest heavy in what I want to do on the one that I want. I don't know if this will work. See, so I got a couple of things that I want to do. There was that general war cry that you can actually tie to a weapon attack. So if I'm running a spell slinger build that, you know, hey, let's just be honest, spell slinger volatile dead or spell slinger dominate detonate dead configuration with the general war cry that instantly goes off, that takes corpses, brings them up, and they do a hand-to-hand attack at a certain level. I thought that might be pretty cool, especially since I'm running Necromancer. Then, you know, just boost up your damage, your minion damage, and run mostly a minion build, but the minions are generated from whatever's inside the zone. I was like, hey, that might be pretty cool to play. It's a meme build, but hey, who cares? This kind of scares me because they're saying that you're not going to get really the good benefits and stuff unless you actually do multiples. But I need that instant war cry. I need that on my left mouse button. So when I'm walking around and running around, bodies that get generated and stuff like that just come up and they attack. I would rather have that. I want that. I don't want to be kind of hindered. But hey, let's go ahead and work at the other stuff. Stun. Changes to power of slow attacks have resulted in it being much more easier to stun bosses simply because of how much damage you can do in a single hit relative to their health. Rather than increasing the stun threshold, bosses now become immune to stuns for a short duration after being stunned. Most major bosses and map bosses have a stun immunity duration of 2 seconds. The duration is longer on powerful bosses like Guardians, Shaper, Elder, Cirrus, lasting 4 seconds. Stunning is now a great defensive advantage for slow heavy hitting characters without completely mitigating the threat of an encounter. Stun duration becomes more important as you can no longer chain together many short duration stuns. Okay, so you're not going to be able to stun multiple times and stun lock somebody is what they're trying to prevent. But I don't know about those times because some of those bosses, especially like one of those Guardians, there's a Guardian that does that shotgun attack, and that can really hurt. I don't care what anybody says. Ascendancy changes. We've made some changes to the Hierophant, Chieftain, Berserker that we'll be revealing soon. These are changes to one major notable on each tree, focusing on creating powerful individual mechanics that greatly influence how you play rather than overloading ascendancies with a plethora of related stats. The Necromancer Corpse Pack notable now has a maximum of 200 increased attack and cast speed from consuming corpses, as it was possible to get a value to self-scale to problematic numbers using Arcanist Brand. Oh, the Arcanist Brand problem. I like Arcanist Brand right off the bat. And they already told me there was a problem running Arcanist Brand. Oh, makes me feel so warm inside. But I really got scared for some of the stuff. I can't wait to patch notes. Patch notes are going to make a difference, really make a difference on what I make for the moving forward. So probably going to be on tomorrow night, just for everybody to know. I'll be on tomorrow night building and making builds. If anybody wants to go ahead and hit and make a build, ask me a question, I'll be around. Okay, keystones. We've added new keystones to the Marauder Duelist section of the tree. Yeah, I'm a duelist for Blade Storm. Such a great power. Don't care what anybody says. Blade Storm is awesome. Let me get back to what we were doing. These allow investments in slow impale attacks, mitigating big hits with armor and making war cries more accessible to non-war cry invested builds. Each of these allow you to improve some weakness that certain strength based characters, especially two-handed melee characters, could have. Many powerful keystones that were previously only available from Timeless Jewels have been moved to passive trees such as Glancing Blows, the Agnostic, and Wind Dancer. So I got a question. Let me read that again. Mitigating big hits with armor and making war cries more accessible to non-war cry invested builds. I kind of see what they're trying to say on that, but I don't think I know exactly what they're meaning. So I'm gonna just go ahead and skip past trying to explain any of that because I understand it. I don't know what I don't know what they're doing. That's my main problem. I don't know what they're doing. All right, so hold up. All right. Oh, here we go. Let me see what this is. 100% chance to defend with double armor. Maximum damage reduction for any damage type is 50%. So, ouch. Okay, so what it looks like is you take that notable, and when you take that notable, you're automatically going to defend with armor. So in other words, hey, yeah, boop, it's automatically going to get reduced, but the maximum reduction is going to be 50%. I don't know if that's a very good thing because let's say I have 90% damage reduction by using potions or whatever. So I get a 90% damage reduction. I take that notable. I don't got 90% damage reduction. I got like 50% damage reduction. So no matter what. So how does that actually work out real well? I can see where you could actually stack that. You could use the other notable that I think that there is out there for shields, and 50% you double your shield value, and 50% of your damage, 50% of the damage that comes that you get hit with comes through. So that would be a 50% hit of the damage coming through, and then hopefully the armor would take down 50% of that damage. So in other words, you would only get about 25% of the damage that you got hit with would come through and hit you. But some of the hits that we got coming in on a regular basis are pretty hefty. So, you're sitting there talking about you get hit with a 4,000 point hit. 4,000 point hit, 2,000 point hit, reduced again by 50%. What, 1,000? Unless the calculations are different, where either way it goes, you get 1,000 points of damage hitting. Yeah, you can take one of those, but you got something that's hitting you pretty hard, could possibly hurt and get you killed. I don't know, kind of questionable on that, but I'll just let that go. Let me see what this one is, because it looked like that they did. Oh, okay. When your hits impale enemies, also impale other enemies near them, inflicting 4 additional impales on enemies you impale. Enemies cannot be impaled for 4 seconds after you impale them. So, it sounds like you can impale multiple different people. But you can't necessarily impale. It's like you can't impale you know, them for another 4 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, don't use that if you're gonna. Don't use it if you're gonna use a slam. Just off the, you know, from me, that's what I'm thinking. The reason why is you can use a slam, hit multiple people, and yes, you are slow, but is it inflict 4 additional impales on the enemy you impale? So I don't know. That's possible. No, I reverse that statement. So that means you can get 5 impales on somebody with 1 hit. Boom. But you're not going to be able to get another impale stack on them for a while. So I was thinking initially, you use that for strike type combat, where you sit there and you hit somebody, and yeah, I don't know, cause okay, so let me just think this out or explain it out. The reason why I bring this up that way. Okay, so if I'm using a strike, vigilant strike, so I get vigilant strike, I get ancestral call. I hit one person. I get one. I hit. So in one person, I target. I hit them. It's gonna hit 3. It's gonna hit 3. So 2 other people get hit. That's gonna be 1 impale on each one of those individuals. I get to do it again. So I hit him again. That's the second impale. Okay. But with this, what I can do is I can hit one person, spread it, hit multiple guys, and then possibly get another rotation out, and they automatically would have 4 impales on them automatically, which increases my damage. So the configuration that I was thinking of back when I first started, and I'm not going to start with this, but if I'm running Ancestral Call, Ancestral Cry, which is the war cry, which allows me to hit multiple people, then I'm hitting a ton more people. So you can impale every last one of those individuals in a big barrage of people. So 6 people, you're hitting 6 people, because I'm just saying Ancestral Cry is only going to give you 3 people to hit. Don't know if that's going to be a cap. Haven't seen the gym, don't know. But so you're hitting 6 people total. 6 people total. All of them have 4 impales on them automatically, and you do a really good, and you increase your damage pretty fast. So I would do it with a strike. With a slam, I don't know, because slams are going to come out and they're going to hit all kind of people, so you really wouldn't need this. But I understand because slams are supposed to be slower, the want to get more stacks on them quicker. So I wouldn't use it on a slam, but somebody tell me I'm wrong. I don't mind. All right, so other passive tree changes. Yay! We've made larger number of changes to the passive tree with the intent of supporting recently introduced mechanics, as well as providing more variety for clusters, especially those lacking in obvious power. All right. We wanted to add support for mechanics that have been added in the past few years that as of yet do not have adequate support on these passive trees. Some of these mechanics include Rage, Unleash, Corpse, Manipulation, War Cries, Heralds, and Banners. The War Cry clusters that affect exerted attacks are very useful for slower attacks. The Martial Experience cluster is a good example of how total recovery for per second from Life Leech has improved. Now, taking the longer path through the cluster will give you 220 increased total recovery per second with Life Leech, enough to cause a single hit to be able to leech up to 6.4% of the maximum life per second. These changes were made so a big hit against a boss still provides significant life leech per second, rather than having to attack rapidly to reach maximum life leech per second. So you remember I was sitting there saying that one wheel for life leech for big hits? That's the one I was talking about. Many passive skill clusters offer the same thing as other clusters, with the only differences being the location of the tree and the number of passives in the cluster. In this patch, we have endeavored to give each cluster its own identity and function. Okay. Critical strike multiplier values have been lowered from almost every passive as well as from some items. Critical base characters far exceed non-critical characters later in the game. Will bring the two a little closer together. Wow. Wow. That's a big one. We've added a new indigo oil between the azure and violet oils. This has made more common oils slightly rarer without making rarer oils even rarer. Some notables will have updated oil costs as a result of the changes to the passive tree. Not every indigo oil combination on the amulet will yield a notable yet. There are no new blighted notable passives, and 2 existing blighted notable passives are now on the passive tree. New ring and blighted map anointments have been added. Cluster jewels. Ooh, that's a big change. Oh boy, this might be big. Cluster jewels will remain in the game, available from delirium encounters. Delirium encounters will be less common, but will drop significantly more cluster jewels than before, as we still want cluster jewels to be an accessible and major part of the character development, especially if you're actively trying to find them. Many cluster jewels notables were problematic when stacking multiple times. Rather than limiting notables to 1, we've instead rebalanced or significantly changed these notables, or added caps to the maximum value for each can receive for a certain kind of effect. Of particular note, you know they did this for Herald stacking. Particular note, Purposeful Harbinger now gives aura buffs from skills have 8% increased effect for each herald affecting you, up to 40%. This means that the 5 heralds on you and on Purposeful Harbinger notable, you can reach full effect, or you can use 3 heralds and 2 Purposeful Harbinger notables. So you max out pretty quickly. Changes to War Cries have meant that all War Cry cluster jewel notables have been reworked, which also introduces some new effects. Also, the new effects on the in the notables, so that's good. Some cluster jewel brand notables have also been rebalanced. Oh shoot! Okay, they hurt me. They hurt me bad. Weightings of notables and other modifiers have been adjusted with the most powerful notables and two jewel sockets being much less common, as crafting an exceptional cluster jewel was far too easy. The unique jewels for the simulacrum will still be available, though will be rarer as a result. Okay, let me see over here. Gotcha. As a result, being in every area. Voices and megalomaniacs are unchanged, while split personality is limited to 2. This jewel as the go-to jewel for any attribute stacking build, so we want to push more variation. No keystones from any of the Delirium unique jewels have been changed, though, like the Simulacrum jewels, these will be less frequent as you encounter the unique bosses that drop them less frequently. These cluster jewels notables will no longer be available. Gladiatorial combat, deep cuts. Oh my god, that hurt. Intensity, confident combat, no witnesses, and any existing notables already on jewels will be retained. Some notables and some of their effects have been moved to the passive tree, with deep cuts being the only exception. Holy crap. Okay, I gotta look this up. I'm sorry, guys. This is a big thing. POE. Go back. POE. Ah. Ah. Yeah, it's the one I thought. 15% chance to impale enemies on hit with attacks. Impales you inflict last one additional hit. This was ridiculously good. You can stack up fast the impales, and it would stay stacked pretty easily. Oh, that hurts. That hurts. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's keep thinking. Okay. Vol Molten Shell. Oh wow. Vol Molten Shell was providing too much damage mitigation for too long with too little investment. This results in Vol Molten Shell being used as a huge proportion of characters, including those that didn't get much armor beyond a granite flask. We intended to keep it as the best defensive Val skill for armor invested characters while bringing it closer to the power of Vol Grace. It will still last for long durations, but now require a greater value of armor to reach its cap and mitigates a much lower percentage of damage while active. It also gives more armor instead of a flat value of armor, multiplying your existing armor rather than giving an effect that is less relevant to armor invested characters. Vol Molten Shell also removes and is removed by guard skills. Previously, it only had this effect with Molten Shell. Molten Shell itself will remain unchanged. Okay, so back in Delirium and before that, I don't know if everybody remembers, but what you used to be able to do is run Vol Molten Shell, run a Granite Flask. You kick that Granite Flask off and you pop that Vol Molten Shell, and you got a good ton of extra hit point and damage reduction that just instantly, just off of that. You didn't even have, you could be an evade character and you just throw boop boop and you were good. So this, I understand what they mean. They're like, hey, no, we want people that have armor to use Vol Molten Shell. We want people that have grace or that have evasion to use Vol Grace. We want those people that have energy shield to use, I don't know, Arcane Cloak, I think it is, or something like that. But either way it goes, they kind of screwed people that have Vol Molten Shell just to have it. We have removed the stun immunity from Cyclone, but made no more changes to it. The immunity was originally added to prevent implementation problems with when positional desync was common, not as a core part of the skill design. Being able to move while dealing damage is already a powerful defensive benefit, and melee attackers are usually more resistant to stuns. The skill will still make you immune to knockback, and Vol Cyclone still retains the stun immunity. So in other words, Anvir, you got problems. Not that big of a problem, but problems. Archmage. Hey, you knew they were coming for that one. Archmage support provided two significant power increase for builds when built around very heavily. We've made changes to bring it more in line with other builds while still noting that it's going to be a huge source of power for mana invested builds. It now provides less added lightning damage based on the mana spent than it did before, down to 108 of mana cost at level 20 of the gym. So was it lost 20%? I think it is something like that. We've changed most items that increase mana cost. Fevered Mind has been reworked and is now limited to 1. Voidbringer and Apps Rage now add a flat mana cost rather than a percentage modifier. That's actually pretty interesting. These items provide 2 great damage multipliers for a single unique, as their once downside had become an upside. Heck yeah. You just throw that doggone thing on and then bling, you were good. Most people didn't even run it with the, but you used to, if you ran that and you ran like the Katava headpiece, Archmage cast out your Katava headpiece with a 4-link type spell inside of it, it would automatically cast, because guess what? Your spell, whatever it was over 400 mana. So bam, every time you cast a spell, you were casting what was in the helmet. I love that. It's kind of like being a spell slinger without actually reserving mana for spell slinger. I loved it. It worked real good. Um, where were we? Let's see here. We've added a new passive cluster on the tree to let you increase the mana cost of your skills as a new avenue of investment, though at values much lower than what could be gained from unique items. Okay. I see. Wow, this is actually pretty long. Unique rebalance. We've made many changes to unique items that were either failing to achieve their desired goals, had fallen behind our competing items, or were not deemed interesting enough for our current standards of unique items. Our goal for each of these unique items is to make sure that there is a place for them on characters, even if the place is while leveling, and to do this in more interesting ways where possible. Many of the changes are numerical, either because of the items was already significantly interesting, or because it would. Let me see here. All right, I think that music seems like it's loud. Okay, so let's try that. All right, so. Ooh, two-handed uniques. Where is that? Go back. Many of the changes. Okay, more information in the patch notes. Okay, so they just changed the numbers, and when they change the numbers, it's going to affect us. Two-handed weapons that have been reviewed and tweaked as a result of the base types been changed. Overall, rares items should be more competitive with the most powerful unique items, and there will be a greater variety of useful unique two-handed weapons. A few unique weapons that provided too much power, especially after changes to their base type, have had some values lowered. Starforge, Disintegrator, Hegemony Era. I've never seen that one. I'm gonna remind me to copy that and figure out what that one was. Will now lower damage per second than on live, while other items remain the same as improved. Starforge received the most significant reduction of damage. It provided more physical damage than any other unique by a huge margin, as it was designed before pure physical damage was its competitive way to build skills. It is now more in line with the damage of other unique weapons, while retaining its special shock area and life modifiers. It now has a custom implicit of 30% increased global physical damage, as the Infernal Sword base type now usually gives a 30% increased elemental damage with attack skills. The Circle of Fear, Nostalgia and Regret, Anguish, Guilt unique rings that affected heralds now give lower values of reservation cost reductions and lower values of buff effect. These rings provided too much power and were too obvious a choice for so many builds. I can agree with that. I stacked those up suckers. I grabbed one of those every build. Well, not every build, but you know what I mean. Herald of Threshold Jewels. The unique Threshold Jewels for Dual, Strike, Magma Orb, Multi-Strike, and Fireball have been changed. They now provide effects that change how the skill is built, or downsides to offset their beneficial effect. Each acting as a way to change how you build or play a skill, rather than a must-have boost at cost of a jewel slot. Glacial Hammer Shattering Chains Threshold Jewel will no longer drop. That's kind of stupid. Glacial Hammer, I never had a good successful Glacial Hammer build. Shattering Chains made it at least, if I'm clearing things like a map clearer, that made it at least beneficial. I got really cool stuff from that. All of these skills have been given increases the damage area or utility to compensate for the power loss from the Threshold Jewel. So you get no threshold jewel for Glacial Hammer, which was very hard to run with anyway. But everybody else gets stuff. We'll continue to look at the roles of threshold jewels over time, making changes when possible and appropriate. They didn't touch First Snow. That is the best thing I've heard all day. First Snow makes my build work. Without First Snow, I might as well go ahead and throw stuff in the trash. The slower projectile support gem now grants a lower value of less projectile speed than before. This is because the single support was massively multiplying the close range combat for certain skills, and all of them were being balanced around the value from this support. It also means we can be more generous with projectile speed granted by other sources. Molten Strike, Magma Orb, Ball Lightning have had their damage and some of their properties improved, as the close range damage is now affected by lower projectile speed. The Shikari Pantheon has had its modifiers changed to half the duration of poison on you and prevent you from being poisoned while you have at least 5 poison effects on you. The Pantheon power trivialized a mechanic that was core of the 4 major guardians of the current end game, and preventing poison being a threatening mechanic to any character. Okay, so that really sucks, because what I used to do is just automatically get that, automatically use it, because guess what? That poison boss sucks. He sucks bad. They just destroyed that. We've made improvements to the totem AI for certain skills that had special targets like Blade Blast, corpse skills like Detonate Dead, Volatile Dead, Cremation and Body Swap. Oh, so they said they made improvements. That means my balls won't sit around and do nothing for a minute before they hit. That might be good. Hexproof now gives immunity to curses on top of preventing any curse being applied. This means that you will gain Hexproof. You'll immediately remove any curses on you. This was an oversight that this wasn't already the case, and we mean that stealing Hexproof from enemies will now clear all curses off you. Okay. Conclusion. This outline just a portion of the changes you'll see in Path of Exile Harvest. There's still a subject to change prior to the release. You'll see more information in the patch notes tomorrow. We look forward to seeing how players wield the new power introduced in Path of Exile Harvest. And in the meantime, we'll pour out a flask for our fallen meta builds. Yeah, they screwed over a bunch of builds. I'm not even going to deny that. I'm hurt. My body hurts. I'm so hurt over some of these. It's like, wow, really? Yeah, I already knew about that one. Fallen War Cries are instant. Yeah, I got that one. See if I missed any others that might be interesting to see. Seen that one. All right, so I'd like to say thanks for watching. We'll go over the patch notes as soon as I can tomorrow. Hope this helps you in your quest for ultimate power. Talk to y'all later. Peace out.